Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we're calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson contained in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 191, The Skies Can't Keep Their Secret. Of course, her use of the word secret will be fascinating in so many of her poems. We'll get into more of this in a moment. You'll maybe remember from an earlier lecture that we pointed out that in a letter to Sue, Emily said, this is letter 586, in a life that stopped guessing, you and I should not feel at home. Now, we're in some ways back to poems 22 and 40, questions about the afterlife, the secret, if you will, the flood question, this is sometimes referred to in the scholarship. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already studied our set of introductory comments. I'm hopeful that you've already read the preceding 190 poems. We just finished with 190, He Was Weak. Now, when this poem was published in 1891, it was actually titled Secrets. I want you to pay attention to her use of that word as well as her use of the word Father. You'll remember in poem 53, dust is the only secret. So this is not new territory for us. Now, the question of this poem has a lot to do with summer as a sign of rebirth. Think the phoenix motif, and therefore the possibility of afterlife. Or possibly the idea that snow might somehow represent the garments of white that religion, especially Christianity, will posit. Let's enjoy the poem 191. The skies can't keep their secret. They tell it to the hills just tell the orchards, and they, the daffodils. A bird by chance that goes that way soft overhears the whole. If I should bribe the little bird, who knows? But she would tell. I think I won't, however. It's finer not to know. If summer were an axiom, what sorcery it's snow. So keep your secret, Father. I would not, if I could, know what the sapphire fellows do in your new-fashioned world. Now, we're going to have to take a look at poem 70 again. We'll remind ourselves of the power of that set of lines when we were dancing with those lines. Remember the last two stanzas? Perhaps the kingdom of heaven's changed. I hope the children there won't be new-fashioned when I come and laugh at me and stare. I hope the Father in the skies will lift his little girl old-fashioned, naughty everything over the style of pearl. Now, we're going to see Father here. And I think it is interesting the way that she begins with the skies and she ends with sapphire fellows, the angels. Notice we'll start with the skies can't keep their secret. Again, back to poem 153 with dust is the only secret. In 34 different poems, Emily plays the game of the secret. I think for Emily, so much of her poetry is trying to come to terms with the secrets, the uncertainties, the ambiguities, and the like. Now we're to this idea of telling. If there's anything, as we've said, Emily is pedagogue, Emily is instructor, Emily is teacher, it's always seeming to be about, can I share something with you? Can I tell you something? Or can I receive something? Notice here it's the skies. They're going to keep their secret. However, they can't do it. So they tell it to the hills. Notice we go from hills to orchards to daffodils, yes, right? And then finally to a bird. We know the significance of birds for Emily already. And then the use of the word by chance, the phrase by chance, a bird by chance. Now, I believe that Emily learned some of this idea from her study of Plato's Republic. We've given full lectures at LearnStrong.net. You remember what we said about Plato's view of education in Republic? It can either be totally random, in other words, just like throwing dice. We just kind of let things happen to children to figure out what's going to, how they're going to develop, or their education can be intentional. And I think this notion of by chance is funny. I think she's being a little ironic here. A bird by chance that goes that way, soft, of course the word soft, profound here, soft overhears the whole. In other words, the birds know somehow what humans don't. And obviously this takes us back to Shelley's Skylark and all of that, right? We look before and after and pine for what is not and all of that. She says, if I should bribe the little bird, who knows? And this phrase, who knows, takes us back to poem 79. But she would tell. the possibility of learning the secrets of nature. I think she, of course, is playing the same game that Emerson will play in his classic essay, Nature. We've given full lectures on that one at learnstrong.net. She says, I think I won't. I'm not going to bribe the bird. I think I won't, however. And then a line that is going to be kind of representative of Emily's epistemological fallibilism, as we've said. That notion of what it is that you can know. You can be absolutely certain of what you know, the absolutist position. You can be on the complete end of that spectrum. There is nothing to know, the relativist position. Seems to posit, though, there's one thing you can know, and that's you can't know anything. That performative contradiction will usually drive somebody like Emily back to the middle, but she knows she doesn't want to be an absolutist. She'll be a fallibilist. I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. Notice the way she says it. It's finer not to know. Study her use of the word fine. I mean, we've seen it just recently in a couple of poems. Finer not to know. In other words, I'm okay with ambiguity. I'm okay with complexity. I'm okay with not knowing. And then she'll say it. If summer were an axiom, what sorcery had snow? If it's possible that you could read the details of the future by studying the seasons. In other words, is it possible that summer is proof that in fact there is an afterlife? She says, I just don't know about any of that. So, keep your secret. But notice she doesn't say skies. Notice she doesn't say hills. Notice she doesn't say orchards or daffodils or even the bird. Keep your secret, Father. Notice we go from sorcery, the mystery, to the secret. And then she, of course, speaks directly to Father, which of course takes us back to poem 70 again. Notice, I would not, if I could, know what the Sapphire Fellows do. Now, the minute I see Sapphire, I cannot help but think of T.S. Eliot's Bert Norton Part 2, garlics and sapphires in the mud, clop the bedded axle tree, the trilling wire in the blood sings below inveterate scars, appeasing long-forgotten wars. I think this use of the word sapphire is fascinating. She'll give it to us in poems 291, 628, and 666. I'll let you run that to ground to kind of see where she uses it and how she uses it. She says, I don't care. In the next poem, 192, it's going to be Dinah Care, I don't care, the Scottish presentation of not really taking it that seriously. Poem 176, you'll remember, was the only other use of I don't care. Here she says, so keep your secret, Father. I would not, if I could, know what the Sapphire Fellows do in your new-fashioned world. Not old-fashioned world. New-fashioned world. Again, back to poem 70 with this phrase of new fashion. And of course, immediately we're thinking about Milton, Paradise Lost, no doubt. At 2a, what are we going to do with a poem like this in terms of messages? I think their argument is sometimes it is better to be content with uncertainty, with not knowing, to embrace the ambiguity. I think if there's one thing for sure epistemologically that Emily drives us towards, it's that. Because we can rarely make definitive observations about any of these poems we're studying. That's why we called our series Chats with Emily. It's as if we're just kind of having these random exchanges with her, trying to figure out what it is that she's suggesting. But she, I think, is suggesting it's okay to not know everything, guys. We don't have to know everything. It's all right. It's all right. At 2b, I love her word choice. I love her use of secrets and, of course, Father. At 3a, well, we mentioned, of course, poem 70 that's built, I think, in some ways off of this one. We mentioned Paradise Lost, and, of course, the idea of Eden and loss. And then I'd like to think of Shelley's Ode to the West Wind here. Remember that final line, if winter come, can spring be far behind? I think there's some of that happening here as well. Finally, at 3b, to own a poem like this, what is, for you, a secret that you wish you could understand better or know about? And are you okay with the ambiguity of not completely understanding? I know that sometimes Emily will frustrate some of you because you can't quite figure out what she's saying, and she says, welcome to the party. Thank you.